On WJZZ, the coolest television station in the world. My guest today is a very, very distinguished gentleman who's actually known throughout the United States and the world. He's a global citizen. Mr. Rufus Bartell, welcome to Chop It Up.
How are you, Linda? Such a great opportunity to be here with you.
Well, it's a great opportunity for our audience so they can get to know you better and understand. I think what is really a sort of a global perspective that you have. You're such an incredibly intelligent man that it's great to have you here today. And for our audience, please watch us, listen to us, text us, subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, everything that you can think of, every single social media platform here at WJZZ Cool TV. Rufus, when we were walking in today, you spoke briefly about your family. Can you tell our audience something about you?
So, Rufus Bartell again, a graduate of McKenzie High School, youngest of 14 kids. Mom and dad was married 69 years, graduate of Western Michigan University Business School, serial entrepreneur. Very passionate about my city and my work. Very passionate about what I think our community needs to continue to grow and change some of the conditions in our community. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell.
When you're speaking about our community, you're talking about black people everywhere, not just in Detroit?
Correct.
Right.
I think that's a very important conversation. And oftentimes we have this conversation through, a political lens or a social lens, but I think we have to have it through a financial lens. And that's probably the last area in which I think we have to really focus on, getting a financial education. I think we've mastered politics. I think we mastered religion, if you will. I think now we have to master, having a financial education. I think that closed the gap and helped change our condition nationwide and worldwide.
How did you get your financial education?
Well, both through college and also self-study. I'm a firm believer that we must partake in personal development, even if we have to spend money for it. A person has to be educated either formally or informally. And so I say it's both. And if you're not able to do both, we got this thing called a cell phone, which is a university that we can call on information at any point in time. And so I just think it's very important for always to be in self-study. Oftentimes a friend will call me and say, "Hey man, what you doing?" I'll say, "I'm studying." He say, "What, you in class?" I was like, "No, I'm not in class. I just want to study my craft and I want to study and see what's happening in the world." And so people get it when you put it that way.
When you speak about business, was your family involved in business, and is that how you got the perspective that you have today?
Yes, at one point, my dad worked 3 jobs. He was having
14 kids, you said?
Yeah.
14 brothers and sisters. How many girls, how many boys?
So 9 boys, 5 girls. 3 has gone on to pass.
I'm sorry.
We lost my mom and dad the same year in 2014. But, for them, it was all about legacy. And my dad used to always quote Martin Luther King. One of his quotes will always be, if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that you can be. And
my dad said that too.
Absolutely. And so we grew up in the church, Greater Bethlehem Temple Church, that was started back in, I want to say, late 50s under Bishop Hancock. And we was reared in the church, and we were there every Sunday. And ironically, and I don't believe it, that my brother now pastors that very church that we grew up in.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Just before we go back to business, how do you deal with 16 people in one household?
So
your house is huge?
So we never actually stayed all together at the same time. As people were being born, people were moving out. And I think we had a 5-bedroom. My dad grew up in Black Bottom. Then from there, I think he moved to Pacific Street near the Northwestern High School area, and then moved to Cloverline where the McKenzie area. I was born over there. I wasn't born on Pacific Street. Some of my older brothers and sisters were. And people thought because we had all these kids, they would come in the house and the house would be torn up. And it was always clean. It wasn't torn up. We never missed a meal. The lights never got turned off because my daddy's work ethic was second to none.
Mine too.
My mother had a serious work ethic.
for 52 years walking in the back door of Bloomfield Hills Country Club
Yep.
just to keep us in school. And so I've never seen any. I swear I got my work ethic from it. We all did.
Absolutely. They World War II
A father is
generation.
so important.
Absolutely.
And I was listening the other day to a presidential candidate. I don't know if you agree with him. And well, first of all, I think about 80% of African American households are single parent households. But he specifically emphasizes the importance of a father. The father is just critical in a household. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think we are.
Because you've spoken about your dad several times. Like I always
Yes.
talk about mine.
Yes, and that is a very deep and complex subject, the black male being out of the household. And to the extent that women have done so well, but not to the extent that it could be at the absence of a father or absence of a strong male figure. From a career-wise, I get it, and the sisters are really killing it. And
True.
and you know, the fastest growing segment in business is black women
That's
among
correct.
all other segments, be it black, white, or otherwise. And so I think we got that part figured out. But the part that we have to figure out, and it has to be internal now, because externally we know what kind of conditions help to create that we're looking at right now. But internally, it's a problem that we have to fix, and that is getting that male back into that household, getting that extended family back together.
Well, part of that, I think, it is the dynamic that currently exists between men and women. It's changed dramatically. In many cases, even my nephew said it when a repair person came to the door, and they said, "Where's is the man of the house here?" And he said, "My mom is the man of the house." And even though his father was there, I mean, there's just been a diminished role for males in families. Women are both the woman and the man.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that contribute to that. The success track.
What he said was, my mom is the head of the house. They said, "Where's your dad? Where's the head of the household?" And he said,
and
"My
we all
mom
know
is."
that's backwards. And I think what we've done in society, and some of us bought into it, and that is because the black women are on the fast track from a financial and maybe a career standpoint, and somehow that equates them to being the head of the household. And then also you got all these other things that are attack on the male figure, be it incarceration, be it drugs.
So many
be
things. So much
it-
bias against you.
Yeah,
Institutional bias
Absolutely.
against black. I'm serious about that.
institutionalized, no question about it. It's so subtle that people don't even
That's why
see
the
it or
girls,
feel it.
women pull their purse closer when they see you. They don't do that when they see me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we got to do a better job, and then the kind of images that we promote, sometimes through our music, sometimes through our movies, all those things have psychological impact, whether we're going to believe it or not. Like, for example, you know, oftentimes people say, "Well, it's just the music. What about the movies?" And the music doesn't have that kind of impact on you. Well, when you hear a beat and it makes you bob your head and it makes you get up and dance, don't tell me that don't have impact.
I agree.
And then you overlay it with words and some of the images that we have for our males. We don't have any counterbalance to it.
Well, you're right in many instances, but it's deeply, deeply, deeply troubling to me because both you and I had strong fathers, and they were absolutely part of our household and what we do. Then you know, that's what I expect to see in general with people and kids and so forth. But it's just not happening.
Yeah, and it affects when
And because my father would not allow that kind of music. As a matter of fact, he called it in gut bucket music. You know what I mean? I mean, like, you know what I mean? I mean, turn that off. He liked classical music, and he walked through the house singing Vesela Juba.
yeah. So even if you had this music and you had some counter music, to your point, classical music, jazz, and then people know that they have a healthy balance. But if it's all streaming one thing and you grew up on it from a social media standpoint, and now that's where people get the information from social media, it's a socialization of your behavior. And oftentimes, because of this, even when you go to the workplace with male figures and you're going in for bank loans, you know, the turn down rate is so much higher just because of the perception of what that figure looks like. And we have to change that.
So one of the ways that I think perhaps you have, in addition to the way that you are, one of the ways that you've changed that perception is by being very successful in business. Can you tell us something about your businesses?
So we are in the hospitality space, which are restaurants. We're in the retail space, which are obviously retail stores, and we are real estate development, both commercial and residential. And then I have some consulting companies and marketing companies. And so these are some of the three passions I've had my whole life since high school, and that is, marketing and consulting, real estate development, of course, retail and hospitality. So one thing about retail is that it puts you into everything. Everybody have to wear clothes. Everyone have to find a place to lay their head, and everybody have to have something to eat. So those are kind of 3 areas that we thrive in. And then obviously now you have your bitcoins and your digital assets and all those things. But the three core items that every human have to have is that you gotta have a roof over your head, you have to have some clothes,
Food, shelter, clothing.
Food, shelter, clothing.
Like the old days.
Absolutely.
And
Some
that's
things
what our
never
parents
change.
worked for us to have as their children, so we would never be exposed to the elements, etc.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So, as a black businessman, let's just deal with one of those industries.
Okay.
But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard, on WJZ.
Who I voted for?
Oh, thank you. Oh, WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. You can watch us, listen to us, subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of the social media platforms. But back to the question. How do you see business now for African Americans? Let's just deal with one of those industries.
I think it's very, very promising because, in business we bring our culture with us, and we have such a rich and robust culture that people love to partake in our culture, and we certainly welcome them to it. We just don't want you to be a culture vulture, where you take the culture and sell it back to us. And
Culture vulture, that's a new term for me.
As a matter of fact,
What do you mean by that?
I got that from Dame Dash, as a matter of fact. I hear him say that all the time. And what I feel that it means is that you have a person that's outside the culture that takes the culture, uses it for their benefit, and sometimes to your disbenefit. Or they'll take the culture and sell it back to you.
Tommy Hilfiger, etc. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
All in terms of sales, in terms of, clothing and so forth.
Yeah,
it's all us.
See, that business is a very, very shrewd business.
What do you mean?
That business is almost like the drug business, and I'll say it in this regard. Say, for example, like the specialty stores, which we have. A specialty store is people.
Simply Casual.
Yes.
In Detroit, Michigan, on Livernois Avenue.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so you go to a buying show, like one of the main buying trade shows in America is called the Magic Show in Vegas.
Right, every year.
So let's say that you this very, very stylish person, you have your ear to the ground, you know exactly what your community wants. And let's say a new hot brand come out that you bring to your store. And so the larger department stores will be at the same table ordering, at the same booth, right? So they can conceivably watch everything that you purchase, buy your order. Once you leave the booth, they say, okay, I want her order. Buy her order.
Can they really do that?
Absolutely. They can, everything that you bought, they say, I want everything that they bought times 100, whatever that number is, and they're going to get shipped first. So you'll get your goods 30 days later. Theirs will be on the floor within a couple of weeks.
This will be like Macy's or any place, Saks,
Absolutely.
everywhere.
So what happens is, and so now when I come into your store and you say, look at these new goods we have, and you'll say, I already have that because Macy had it 30 days before.
And Macy discounted it.
And they'll discount. And then what they'll do, if you're a designer, and we're not picking on Macy's, we're going to say big department stores.
Right, I'm not picking on.
And Macy's is one of them, is that they got what you call guaranteed margins. So that means that, let's say you're a new designer, and you ship them $500,000 in goods. And they say, okay, we got to have 80% sell-throughs.
80%?
We don't sell-throughs. In other words, we got to sell 80% of that order.
Okay.
If we don't sell 80% of that order, you got to buy back the difference. So they already gave you a check for $500,000, right? So you whooping it up. Yeah, I just landed Macy's, right? And they sell 50% of the order. So you got to make up that 30%. I mean, that 50% to that 80 cents, 30%, and you got to give them a check back.
Wow, I did not know that's how
Yeah.
that worked.
And so I tell young designers, don't be so quick to run to these major brands to do business, because you got to have the legs and you got to have the stamina to do business with them. And so there's so many ways where they can manipulate the business. And for example, let's say you'll have somebody like Nike or Ralph Lauren polo, right? Now, blacks buy a lot of Ralph Lauren polos all over the country, but no,
And tons of Nikes.
correct. But don't have a black account.
What does that mean?
Meaning that, like, if I carry Ralph Lauren, that means I'm a black account. I'm an account.
Okay,
So
I gotcha.
we can buy it, but we can't buy it from black people. Shinola is like that. And I didn't mean to bring this up, but I'm kind
Who?
of ticked at Shinola.
Who was like that?
Shinola is here in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
I can't name one black-owned retailer that carried a watch.
You know what?
But we
should,
buy Shinola watches.
no, but we should address that.
Sure.
I mean, Jesse did a lot of work with Jesse Jackson and Rainbow Push, and he says if your money doesn't spend with me, my money doesn't spend with you. So, and we do this big thing in the automotive industry, you know, where we look at do data on the automotive companies, see how many blacks they have employed, how many black dealers they have,
Media spends almost none.
yeah, how many parts, because there's 7,000 parts in a car. How many of those are supplied by African Americans? So that's making the industry accountable. But you're saying there's no accountability in the fashion business?
In fashion, you heard Kanye make a lot of noise about the disparities in fashion.
About the who?
Disparities in fashion.
Okay.
And, I'm not a huge Kanye fan, because some of that stuff, he said I can take with a grain of salt. But in a lot of ways, he makes a lot of strong points, something I've known for a very
He's a
long
deep
time.
brother.
When he got into the game, I was already in the game, already understood the game. And so what he was going through, I was like, okay, he's not going to do this, he's not going to do this, because this is how this is set up. So even with the deal that he had with Adidas, and, that supposedly made him a billionaire, and because of the deal he did with Adidas. But what people don't realize, you can have a great ideal and you can have great designs, but there's a whole infrastructure that's behind that. There's a supply chain that you don't control.
Correct.
From even the raw goods to the people who manufacture, to the people who's in the middle, and to the people who actually pick, pack, and ship. And so you got to have all that figured out if you're going to play if you're going to play with the big boys, before you even have the design. See, everybody, it's called the fashion business. It's called show business. And many of us have the fashion, and many of us have the show, but we don't have the business.
You sound just like me. I tell people all the time, I can take you into Detroit any Sunday morning and show you 7 Whitney Houstons. But it's show business.
Correct.
It's how you get that product out there, how you get it marketed, how you get the attention of all that.
Yeah.
It's the business. Doesn't have
All
anything
the
to do with
infrastructure.
talent.
Absolutely.
Has nothing to do with talent.
Talent is almost last.
Right.
If it's about you taking your craft and earning money. Now, if you have a God gift, and you just want to give it away, then have at it. But if you want a beautiful gift that you want to make money, then you have to understand the business part.
Right, and you have to have, but sometimes you need a team in order to do that.
Yes.
Who were you a team of one, or did you have a team of others? I mean, because it's hard to do everything.
So I will share this with you that has really sustained me and I think this is a very valuable bit of information that people can use. Like, when we start talking about building a team, the first thing we think about is how much that's going to cost for me to get this legal mind, for me to get this marketing mind, or for me to get this technical mind. And what I do is I find all the people that know how to do all those things, right? That we complement each other's talent. And we say, what we're going to do, we're going to trade services. And then we're going to give the public the invoice. So what happens now, you can build this team. And the first thing I tell people always, look, if you're on my team, I'm on your team. And whatever I got access to, you have access to. And then that way we can trade services and get the thing off the ground. Because oftentimes it dies on the vine because we don't have the soft cost to get the thing off the ground, because we can't afford it. The company is new and we don't have revenue, but we got all these pre-expenses.
Correct.
So how do you got to invert it, you got to flip it.
That's such a good idea. I mean, it's interesting you say that. I said that recently to a client of mine. I needed some gutters actually put on the house, and I said, you put the gutters on, I can, knock $3,000 off your bill. And if he did that, this wall moved. Now he just owes me, real
Yep.
money.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
like, there's so many ways you
Yep.
can do business.
Absolutely.
But
Especially when you're starting, because that's very important.
right.
Because the soft cost is what kills you.
But yeah, because people don't want to get up off of $10,000 or $15,000 or $18,000, which is the bill.
Which is
so
the bill.
I mean, so I'm offering you this opportunity. I said, you know what? Okay, so you passed on it. I got that part. So now you owe me cash.
Right. Right.
Right. So yeah, but you're.
and I'll
but
tell-
I've never heard that before. You have a team, and you trade services.
Yep.
You are a smart man.
Well, thank you.
A really smart man.
Thank you.
Because there's cash compensation. There's other things you can do
Yeah.
for a person. Like if you're a contract, you can put up some damn gutters. You know what
So
I mean?
one of the things that I learned being out here getting it out of the mud all these years is that, like, for example, when people run for office, the first thing they say, we got to raise a lot of money, right?
Right.
So what I always say, okay, if you had the money, what are you going to do with the money? I'm going to spend it on this. I'm going to spend it on this. I need that. I need
Right.
that. Let's figure out all those things that you need that we can get that might not use money. So your capital raise don't have to be as stringent
Right.
or as stressful on not only you, but the people's doors that you're knocking on. So if you need printing and you need 100,000 flyers, you got this print company that says, listen, I'm ABC and I'm running for ABC. Print me these flyers. I'll add your name as my official print partner, and you'll get some traction, and I'll get the flyers.
You said add your name to my official purchasing department.
No, print partner.
Oh, print partner. Oh, print partner.
Yeah, because
That's right. Everything is about partnerships.
absolutely.
There
And-
you go.
And they spend a lot of money. When people are running for office, they kill a lot of trees.
That's a fact.
And so
I know. Mm-hmm.
why not have as a marketing or as a trade, we call them trade partners, that's going to do your $100,000 flyers or 100,000 flyers, and their name is on the flyer. So
Right.
you taking them the print shop everywhere that flyer goes.
Right.
How much would it cost that print company to market that? It will cost them a lot of money.
It
They don't
does
have to
cost-
distribute it because the politicians' team is distributing it.
Right.
So that's a win-win with no money exchange.
Right. As long as you have their name on it, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's a very good example. But in terms of other industries like your industry, how did you build your team? Let's say on the we talked a little bit about marketing and haberdashery, if you will, clothing and things like that. But tell me how that works for you with respect to real estate.
So
You're a real estate developer. That's one of the keys.
So my first love was always fashion and marketing. I was always fascinated by
Well, you were
those.
always super fashionable.
Well, thank you.
Weren't you the man at Mackenzie High?
Well, me
I
and
mean,
Tree,
yeah, you
your
was-
cousin, myself, Tree, bunch of us. So we were all really cool. That's my brothers to this day. Of course, your cousin. And so, and then real estate. So those three things I've always been very interested in. So I worked when I graduated from Western Michigan University. I worked for my brother Jerry in a real estate company. It was Bartell and Associates, and I worked for him for 9 or 10 years, selling both residential and commercial real estate.
So you became a licensed
Yes.
realtor.
Yes.
Were you a broker as well?
My brother was the broker.
Okay,
I
that's all you
was a
needed.
licensed agent, and then I
Right.
ended up getting my wife involved
Okay.
a number of years later. So she's a broker,
Right.
and so those are my three passions. And so what marketing taught me how to market the store, and it taught me how to market the real estate, because everything that we do have a real estate implication. And I
Okay.
tell people all the time, no matter what your vocation is, try to learn a little bit of something about real estate, because everything we do in business and everything we do in life have a real estate implication. For example, where you live, where you work, that's real estate.
Correct.
If you're leasing a barber shop, you know everything about barbering, but you know nothing how
Right.
to negotiate a lease.
Right.
Or to be able to hire an attorney who understands that.
Correct.
And not knowing what you don't know hurts you.
Now, that's always true.
It hurts you. And so I've always been fascinated by those three industries, and fashion. I just got that from my dad. My dad was a sharp dresser. My older brothers were sharp dressers, and like at Mackenzie, it was like a fashion show every day because it was like a contest. And I tell people all the time, men don't dress for women. Men dress for other men, because they know when they go out, they know that guy is coming. And so
Right.
you want to be ready for that guy. And then with men, if you ever notice, if you go to a party you'll see men in a corner talking about each other, and all they talking about is how sharp each other is.
Oh, wow.
And then maybe they'll look at the women.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people
That's
don't
an
know
after
that.
fact,
That's
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? That's part of that
Yeah.
alpha male.
Yeah.
I mean, alpha males will gather together.
Mhm.
You all are strong. You all, as my grandma would say, cover the ground that you stand on. And so you know, you got as much. It's got to be much respect.
Yeah.
You know, I respect you, you respect me, and there's that. You know, that testosterone alpha factor.
And that's in Detroit. Everybody in Detroit can dress. It's like when you go to some of these events, some of the conversations you ever notice. Oh, what are you wearing? You know, that's always a question that we have for
okay.
each other, men and women.
Right.
And so when you talk about hat game, if you want to see the best hat game, just go to the Sunday church in Detroit.
Right.
If you want to know what the hat game is. So, you know, Detroit is such a fashion forward city, and I tell people all the time, when you start talking about the fashion capitals, certainly New York and California are the fashion capitals in America. But when you talk about the dress capital, it's certainly Detroit.
It's Detroit and Chicago.
Yep.
Always has
we
been.
know how to put it together.
Ooh, they're clean.
Detroit and Chicago know how to put it together.
Sugar sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Sugar sharp.
That's a fact.
That's an old school term.
Yeah, it is, but it's the truth.
That's right.
You even when you look at old films and old pictures of black men, and so they're clean.
Clean.
I mean, clean.
Clean.
I mean, nobody else even comes close.
And the use of colors like nobody on the planet. We know how to put colors together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's an innate. That's that
And just
African
style.
innate. Yeah, that's that African innate in us, and it expresses itself in a lot of different ways.
So marketing now in real estate. You were speaking about that, how marketing was so important, obviously, in fashion, and now it's very important in real estate.
Yeah.
Are there any keys to that?
So one of the things is that when you talk about real estate, so people got to know about the property, and now you got to get more creative, because when a person buy a piece of property, be it a house or be a commercial building, for the average person, that's going to be their single largest purchase.
Yep.
And so there's some psychological factors you got to get over. So I tell people all the time, business is psychological far before it's financial.
Right.
And oftentimes we can go straight for the financial part of the transaction.
Which is so silly.
You can't. You got to deal with the psychology of the person.
I agree.
Or the psychology of the situation, because some of these purchases is highly emotional. Like when you go to dine, that's an emotional experience. That's why restauranters are held in such high scrutiny.
Correct.
Because it's such an emotional transaction, and also held in such high regard. So if you've been working all day and you starve and you go and have a great meal, it's like, wow, I had a really great meal. Or you can go and have a really bad experience. You know, the food wasn't good. And that could be very subjective, but the customer service was bad, the presentation was bad, the place was dirty. That is bad.
that is the worst.
Yeah, that's
right.
that's a highly
And the bathrooms, right?
Yeah, and the bathrooms
For girls,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, paying attention to those details, that is the psychological part of the business.
Okay.
You know, everybody might be able to cook a great hamburger.
Right, everybody can.
Yeah. So, but what's the psychological business? And then when you talk about real estate, the same thing. One of the techniques is when you're doing real estate, especially residential, always talk to the woman. Talk to the guy last. Talk to the
Okay.
woman, because she's going to decide what she likes.
So the
color
real
scheme.
person you're selling is the female.
Absolutely, every single time. And the guy don't mind. He just want to get the transaction over with.
Right.
Most men, when they buy a piece of property, especially residential, the thing that they're imagining is probably two places: what their man cave is going to look like and what's in the garage. Everything else is the woman's.
They don't really care about the rest of it.
The woman gonna
And
want
they
the
like the
kids in
yard
bathroom.
sometimes too,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
part of their.
And it depends on their
territory.
lifestyle. If they
Yeah.
do their yard, or if they hire someone to do their yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about barbecuing and stuff like
Oh,
that. You
yeah.
know, those macho activities. You know, kind
Gotta
of
know how to
put
grill.
a basketball rack over my thing. You know, if I wanted to hit, if some kids were over, I wanted to play.
And
a
so
little
now video is so important in real estate sales now. So you gotta present videos.
So who does for your company? Who does your videography?
I use iBox Film, Rod Dickerson. Rod is a master.
Rod
And,
Dickerson.
Rod Dickerson from iBox Films. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, if you've seen anything on social media with Light Up Living Noise, he produced that video.
Okay.
And Light Up Living, matter of fact, I'll get you a copy of it. It's really cool, kind of like synopsis of Light Up Living Noise. And what a Light Up Living Noise is illuminating fashion, art, and design. And I'll tell you a quick story about Light Up Living Noise. Amazon is our title sponsor on that as well.
Wow.
So I was a board member of Detroit Design Corps. And I hope the they don't get upset with me, but I got to
I've been to their events before.
Yeah.
They're downtown,
Yep,
off Jefferson, that little street
Yep.
there, that big building.
Yep.
Yeah, I
So,
like their stuff.
And I wanna, you know, I hope they don't get mad at me, but I have to tell the truth. So, as a board member of Detroit Design Corps, which is a brilliant body of people that really connects the creative class in Detroit, and I will dare to say Detroit probably have a top 5, top 7 creative class in America. There's a lot of creatives here. And so certainly that organization taps into the creative space. But one of the things as a board member that I was always saying at the meetings is that, listen, you know, the slogan was design is everywhere. So I said, you know, we do all these high-end design programming and installations in Midtown and downtown. I said, this needs to be in the neighborhoods. I said, because a person can be a great baker, but they don't know anything about facades. They don't know how to design their space correctly. They know they craft, but they don't know all the things that goes in making a business attractive enough for people to walk in. I said, we got to do some of these installations and programs right in the neighborhood. And at that time, Light Up Livinois was a light show that we used to do in December. I said, tell you what.
Just for Christmas, right?
Just for Christmas.
Just they do in Rochester Hills.
Yeah.
They had a great light show.
Absolutely. I said, I tell you what. Why don't we bring you guys to Livinois and we'll use the moniker Light Up Livinois. So this was in the middle of the summer. And so they did it for a couple years, but they only threw pennies at it. They didn't throw enough resources at it. So they was like, I thought that it was something just to shut me up. Right?
Yeah, it was. They
so I
threw
said,
your
I tell you
They
what.
threw you
Yeah, I tell you what. I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna take it back, and I'm gonna produce it.
Okay.
So myself, along with the Independent Business Association, in which I'm the president, produced the last 2 Light Up Livinois, and we took it back in 20. We didn't do it because of COVID. And we produced our first one in 22, and then 23, and Amazon was our title sponsor. Now, so we go from a budget of a couple of $1,000s that he threw at it to almost 20 times the amount of the budget when we took it over and did it ourselves.
Wow.
And so we impacted over about 50 to 60 black-owned companies in our budget spend. And so the whole impetus of Light Up Livinois, illuminating fashion, art, and design, is to bring people's attention to what it takes to design a space in order for you to be successful. Because design dictates everything. Your floor planning dictates everything. It predicts revenue. So you can have the best brownies, but if your facade is bad, is not well lit, and when you walk into the place, there's no place for people to sit. I mean, design means everything, and it was being ignored in the neighborhoods. So one of the things...
It has been forever.
Forever.
I don't think it's ever been a priority in our community.
So what we said, my family along with this group, said we're going to give it to ourselves. So everything that we do, we make sure it's designed to have that can withstand national scrutiny, right in the neighborhood. So when we did Petty Cash, that was our thought. Okay,
There's no question.
if you go to Midtown, downtown, what kind of experience,
Birmingham,
what kind of presentation would you see? Okay, what is stopping us from doing that right in the neighborhood? Same thing with Cuzzo, same thing with Simply Casual. And so when we went to design Light Up Livinois, which is a festival, it's designed to drive commerce up and down the street.
Right.
With the goal of being able to start duplicating this in other parts of the city in terms of using this as a launching pad to bring attention to that area for people can now fill in the gaps of some of the buildings that are available. And then push repeat and go down Puritan, go down Finkel, and that's how we build a neighborhood. I mean, that's how we build a city. Because the elephant in the room, and I've had a conversation with a couple of people who named that that I'm not going to mention, right? People who own some ink pens that can print stuff, people who got great relationships. And I said, listen, man, the elephant in the room is when I read this Crane article, something that I've known, but sometimes when you see things in print, it hits differently. And that is, Detroit has lost 700,000 people over X amount of period of time.
More than a million. We only 700,000. Memphis is bigger than us.
Yeah, we were a city of 2
At
million
Columbus,
people.
everybody.
So I said to myself,
we're like 15
is
to
that
16.
a crime of skill or is that a crime of will? Then I said, when I was in our 20s, it was about what they're going to do about it. But now it's about what we're going to do about it. So now it's under our watch. I said the biggest elephant in the room that nobody's talking about is the development of the neighborhoods where people actually live.
Correct.
When you develop the neighborhoods, people will move into the neighborhoods.
Correct.
And that was starting to happen now. I think this particular mayor has been really bullish in that regard. Certainly, it's really not about the mayor. Mickey Mouse can be the mayor and Donald Duck can be the president. It's about what we're going to do in our own neighborhoods, develop our own neighborhoods. And when we do it, and one good thing about us, and I'm talking about black people right now, one good thing about us is that if we see somebody else do it, what do we say? I can do it too.
That's correct.
But if we don't see anybody do it, we're not going to do it.
Right. We need that affirmation, so to speak. I don't
Yep.
understand that.
Yep.
But it's a psychological sort of dependency
Absolutely.
that creates the problem.
And we got to break those chains, and the sisters are doing it. And I tell people all the time, and we can speak specifically about Detroit, and that is, Detroit at one point was the black capital of excellence globally. And I was like, it's time for us to get our title back. So Atlanta, we got to have that back. DC, we got to have that back. And so in saying that, it's about sharing accurate information, because that's the true currency. Oftentimes we run chasing the money. No, chase the information, and the information will get you the money. And then provide a quality product and service. And don't worry about the money. I know it's hard not to worry about money. We got bills are due. We all got 30-day assignments to pay some bill, right?
Right.
But one thing that I found out is that when I start focusing more on my product and my service, the money was easy to come by.
Well, I would agree. I have been to Simply Casual, your store, right at the intersection of Outer Drive in Detroit and Livernois, right down the street from where Marvin Gaye used to live,
Yes.
and up further, a little further, Smokey Robinson
Yes.
lived there, and everyone else. So it is the neighborhood. It's the avenue of fashion,
Mm-hmm.
and by far, you have the greatest property
Well, thank you.
there. But that used to be Belle Jacob.
That's right.
I bought my first fur coat. Well, the guy bought it for me. My first fur coat from Belle Jacob. So
Yeah.
I remember it well. And now you have reestablished it. You're that engine. You pulling all these people with you. How do you do it? What's your secret?
I'll say God, because I've always been this way. Ever since I can remember going back to high school. I'll tell you a quick story, right?
Okay.
And I won't mention his name because he's a counselor and you will know him, right? So I'm out of Western. I'm about 23 years old, and we're going to dinner with a friend of mine, and a friend of mine was dating this attorney. And so I'm 23 years old, and at that time, the attorney had to be maybe in his 40s. And so I'm talking about all the stuff that I want to do. I'm talking about just rattling off all the stuff that I want to do. That was just been in my heart and in my mind just for a long time. Didn't have excuse my French, a pot to piss in or
a minute to throw it out of.
Right.
I can finish the sentence.
And so, after we left, I thought we had a cool dinner, right? A couple of days later, the young lady tells me, we call his name John. He said, John thought that you were trying too hard. I was like,
Trying too hard.
I said, what do you mean trying too hard? I had no idea what she was talking about.
You can't never try too hard.
And she was like, well, all the things that you said you wanted to do, right? Now I was 23. Fast forward some 20 years later,
I love it.
I've hired this guy numerous times.
Oh, yay, team.
And he's a great, great guy. But
He's in that box.
I just say that to say is that one, you gotta manifest stuff. You gotta speak it into existence. And but I've always been driven that way, and a lot had to do with me being the youngest too. I had to fight for everything.
Oh, you were the baby
Yes.
of the 14?
Yes.
You were the little bambino that everybody loved and everybody
So my
played
mother
with?
used to always, everybody used to call me baby. I was like, Mom, I'm the youngest, because I didn't like the baby moniker because they would play you to the left, right?
Yeah.
And so you never knew anything. Your opinion was never valued or nothing like that. When you were at the table, and it's like, you just a little brother, get out of here. And that's how it always been. So it kind of put a chip on my shoulder. So maybe that explains why I go so hard in a lot of different things.
I can't. It's amazing that you are as aggressive as you are. being the baby, because all your sisters wanted to hold you and pet you and play with you. I mean, you're like, you're
My brothers did the opposite.
You're the bambino, you're the you're a
Now they
baby.
thought
You're
I
the
got
baby
away.
brother. You're my mama's baby. Your
Yeah.
daddy's baby. I mean, how did you get to be like you are?
So they used to always
Very unusual for
they
the,
used
the
to
baby
always
child.
say that, and they thought I got away with murder.
Absolutely, because you were the
And-
baby.
But that also brought the wrath of my brothers.
Oh.
So when we playing basketball, they going extra hard.
Are they
you know.
really?
Yeah,
They
but
didn't baby you either?
Oh,
They-
no.
not like the girls did?
oh no, not like the girls. The
Oh, no.
guys, we were in constant competition. To this day, we're in constant.
Okay.
Like if you put me and my brother Al, Doug, or Ron, or Andre in the same room, and we're going to an affair, we're gonna be thinking who's the sharpest.
Wow.
That's always the conversation.
Oh, wow.
If one person get a pool table or something, it's like, man, my pool table's better than that. It's always been that way. It's always been that way. Always.
Was your dad a fashion? I can't call him a fashionista. He's a man, but a fashionable man.
Yes. So my father worked with Ford for some 40-something years, and I think he missed 2 days.
That's my
And,
dad, too. Isn't that
but he-
amazing? People with that kind of work ethic, and
It's
it doesn't
amazing.
exist. It's just unbelievable.
It doesn't exist
Unbelievable.
anymore. So my dad
And
come up-
loyalty to the company. too.
Absolutely.
He drove a Ford.
He drove a Ford. I've never known anything else but a Ford until I got old enough to buy something else. But yeah, so he went to church. He was the trustee of the church, and my father's credit score carried the credit for the church when you the trustee, because when you're doing things for the church, as you well know, as an attorney, is they have to rely on a person,
Correct.
and so it was my dad.
Wow.
And my dad was a sharp dresser because he was at church all the time. They from the South. Matter of fact, I'm going to my family reunion next.
What part of the South?
Florence, South Carolina,
Okay.
and also Charleston area as well.
Okay.
And we have some people from D.C. So the Hawkins Bartels are now holding family reunions together, because before, my mom is a Hawkins, my dad is a Bartel. So we used to have, opposite family reunions.
Yeah.
Hawkins is here, Bartel. So we finally combined them.
What
which I
city
thought
do you
was
do
brilliant.
this in?
So this particular is going to
Family
be
reunion?
we're going to Myrtle Beach, but it's going to be
Yeah, I
in
was gonna
Florence.
say, because I've been to them in Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
Before,
love Myrtle Beach.
even I know white people and so forth that I know that go there, and they're different than us in the sense that rather than going to like a hotel or something, they take over a whole campsite. And there'll be like
yeah.
100 of them, 150 of them, and all the kids are there, and everybody has their own cabins and all that kind of stuff. They like that, but we like the water.
Yeah.
We don't like to be in.
It's probably 100
with-
Bartels in Detroit alone, let alone our family reunion. It's a lot of us.
You driving down, or you guys flying down?
Flying. Everybody's
Okay.
flying.
You don't like
And people from D.C. probably might drive,
of course.
but we're going to fly. It's on about an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, I would fly
2
too.
hours,
Yeah.
And so, so my dad, the competition for fashion in Detroit started in the church.
That
So-
is true.
Right.
We
And
were
so-
always better dressed than white people in their churches, no question.
Yes, and so all across the city, you go to any church, especially on Easter.
Right.
So the fashion kind of came out of that, and my dad was sharp, and so we emanated him, and so the brothers, and then my oldest brother, Lawrence, who passed first, I think in '91. A lot of us unanimously agreed that he was probably the best dressed out of all the brothers.
He had the body, everything.
I mean,
he had the
he
physique.
just had that cachet. He know how to put it together.
Yeah.
Then my brother Al, who passed, we think he was the second, and the rest of us argue about who's come after that.
well,
both have passed.
Well, you're in the retail business, so
Yes.
we know, and you as you say, you go to Vegas for the magic show, which I've always wanted to go to, which
You
is
should.
the
Come in
which is the
February.
fashion epicenter
Yep.
for all things fashion.
Yep.
But I didn't know that the big stores were there and buying, like you said,
Yes.
$500,000 worth of stuff and all this kind of stuff. You're educating
They're
me
there.
on the industry, and so you've transferred that, as you said, into real estate. as well in terms of sales.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing real estate developments? But before you answer that question, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard on WJZZ, the coolest station in the world. You can watch us on any and all social media platforms. My guest is the very distinguished that you're hearing today, Mr. Rufus Bartell, the man.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Go
Well,
ahead.
thank you. So, what was the question?
No, it related to have you translated that whole fashion situation into real estate, or does it make
Yeah.
how does it make a difference?
So again, I have a project that I'm working on that I want to speak about a little bit
In
later.
terms of development, okay.
Yeah, and so certainly it's going to have a real estate implication, but it's another project, real estate wise, that we're working on, my wife and I, and I think it's going to be a really cool situation where it allows more things to happen in neighborhoods. For example, one of the weaknesses that we don't have in the neighborhoods is that if you're an attorney, let's say your office is downtown,
Correct.
and you want something close by, where you can have some temporary space, some flex space that you can come in, meet your clients, close a deal, or what have you.
Like business. It's called
Like
business.
hubs.
Right.
Yep, hubs, financial hubs, and we don't have enough financial hubs. So
We don't have any.
correct.
Not one.
So if you close a real estate transaction, you're gonna need a title company. You're gonna need a mortgage company.
You're gonna need a
real
meeting.
estate
You're gonna need a
agent.
conference room.
You're gonna need a conference room.
You're gonna need copiers.
You might need an attorney. So
Yeah.
you're gonna need all these these 5 different disciplines. But if it's in the neighborhood, you can do it right in the neighborhood.
But you
So-
need equipment too. That's
Correct.
really what
Yeah.
it's about. You need to scan and print and stuff
Yeah.
and everything.
And then to that point, so now you have a person who owns a title company that can come in and use that flex space.
Parking. You need
Correct.
I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about. I've done it. Right.
So-
and it does not exist
Yeah.
in the black community.
And
Period.
we need it.
Absolutely.
So
Well-
that's one of the quick things that we're working on.
What's going to
So
be the name of this company?
we don't have a name for the building yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and of course, there's some vacant real estate on Liver North to complement your other ventures.
Yes.
Petty Cash,
Yep.
Simply Casual, and if there's another one, tell me.
You got Cuzzles, you got What's Cracking, that's next. That's going to
Okay,
be a
What's
seafood
Crackin'?
boil. That's probably over the next couple of months.
What's that for?
Seafood boil is called What's Cracking. Like when you
Oh, I
actually
saw
crack it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a matter of
cracking
fact, there's a pop-up that we're doing at Petty Cash this coming Tuesday. So they can come and sample what the seafood place will look like when it's finished down the street.
Well, listen carefully, our community, and be there. And the rest of the world, when you
Yep.
come to Detroit, be sure to come to Livernois,
Yep.
and come to Simply Casual, come to
Yep.
Petty Cash, and ask specifically to meet Mr. Rufus Bartell.
Well, thank
I
you.
want to thank you so much for joining me today. I learned so much. I took 5 pages of notes.
Well, thank
So
you. And Linda, you've been an iconic person, I don't have to tell you, in the Detroit market, and we love you. We appreciate all that you do, all the people that you've taught, all the people that you've connected, and I just think it's important for people to know that.
I give it like you do. We give to our people in our
Absolutely.
community.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining me.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.